Great, welcome back. So in this video we're going to talk about some insights from the data. So one thing that was kind of surprising is they said that 75% of all home-based business owners are actually doing that kind of work full-time. So this would mean that these are not prosaic entrepreneurs, right? These are not people with a side hustle. This is their full-time labor. Now for those of you that are watching, think about that. Does that match your experience? Do you believe that? Comment below. They say that about 13% of the businesses are operating 30 hours a week or less. And this was 4% of business owners operate 30 hours a week or less. So what they're saying is that 13% of these workers are really doing this part-time, just 30 hours a week. And they said only 4% of other kinds of business owners say that they are operating 30 hours a week or less. Now, I would actually be kind of curious to peel away that data a little bit. Who are these business owners that rent somewhere outside their home, pay a lease, and operate for less than 30 hours a week? Like, that just doesn't seem to make any sense to me. If you have any ideas of who these people might be, make sure you comment down below. They say that they are more likely to have other sources of income and they are operating a portfolio of businesses. Well, I could certainly see that, right? Again, a lot of these home-based business ideas that you might wind up doing, certainly not a single one of them could provide all the income. And I think about this when I lived in Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, everybody had a side hustle because that's what you needed to do to make an income, make a living, right? So, you might be a professor by day, but you're doing consulting on the side. I knew some teachers, like K through 12 teachers that were very underpaid, and they had all sorts of businesses operating out of their home, right? And especially with the sharing economy, this is huge. I knew this one guy, so he was a K-12 teacher by day. Then he was an Uber driver for a few hours, like in the evening is when he drove mostly. He leased out one of his rooms in his house as an Airbnb. What else did he do? He also did this thing where you could cook meals and bring people into your home and they paid for the fact that you cooked and cleaned up after them and entertained them over a meal. He just had one hustle after the other. And again, it made sense because again, as a teacher, yeah, he worked a full day during the year, but there was like times off, Christmas, summers, weekends. And so this was a way for him to diversify his risk. What if the teachers go on strike and they don't pay them? There were all sorts of different things. So he had a whole portfolio of businesses that he was operating out of his home. And that's what they mean by this. And there's some different reasons that they got from the data. Why do people actually go into a home-based business? Well, a lot of people said for cost-saving reasons. About 3/4 did actually. And that makes sense, right? If you can do it out of your home, you should do your business out of your home. You don't have to pay rent for a business. You don't have to pay property tax if you buy a building. You don't have to pay the utilities, blah, 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 blah. And of course, for those of you in the United States, if you make income out of your home, you can use your mortgage payment, your rent payments as a tax write-off. So there are significant advantages from that regard in terms of cost for operating out of the home. And of course, there's the convenience. And again, I'm relating this to LA. LA, that traffic is soul crushing. Like every time you get on Interstate 10, I feel like a little piece of you dies, right? Because the commute is so horrendous, even to go like 5 miles. It took me 8 hours. It might have taken me 8 hours. Let me flip that. It took an hour and a half to go 8 miles, okay, one way. It might have taken 8 hours too. You never know. It wouldn't surprise me. So if you can save on that commute, in theory, maybe you can get a little more work done, although we've talked about the negative home-based businesses that might undermine that. Some businesses simply don't require a commercial premises. You can do these things out of your home, so why not? And one example of this that I can recall, when I lived in France, there was a doctor who ran his practice out of his home. He had a very, very large apartment. It was like a whole floor in an apartment building. That was his. And probably what was like a den or something, if this had been used as a regular house, was filled with toys and stuff. It was a waiting room, so kids could play with the toys in the waiting room. And then the other room was where he saw patients, and that probably was like a living room or something. Had that been used as an actual residence. And so in France, because he didn't actually need to be in a hospital why not do it out of his home? And I was generally unsatisfied with the medical care that I got. But nonetheless, it was good enough, right? If you needed stitches, he could do that. If you had a sinus infection, he could give you antibiotics, whatever. But some businesses just don't need, you don't need an office, right? And especially with Zoom and everything, more and more businesses are falling into this. You can commute, you can telecommute, you can call in. There's lots of things you can do from home now. Of course, again, another reason were family reasons. Not a surprise. We talked about this in the stereotypes. A lot of people said that they liked working from home so they could look after their children, so they could do other things related to home that they couldn't do simultaneously if they had to leave and go to an office. And interestingly, a lot of home-based business owners thought that their quality of life was better by having a home-based business. Of course, you have to think about this. There was some commentary that they thought their quality of life was better than somebody who didn't have a home-based business and things like that. It's an interesting question to ask somebody, though. Are you satisfied with your job? Do you feel that your quality of life is good? No, I'm a loser. That's why I'm a home-based business owner. I mean, who's going to respond like that, right? I thought this was an interesting way to phrase the question. So, what do you think? Make sure you comment down below. But these kinds of loaded questions like, are you satisfied with your quality of life? I'm not really sure are going to give you meaningful answers, right? And I don't think it's helpful to ask people what they think of somebody else's quality of life too. I mean, how would they know? I mean, if you're a home-based business owner, like they said, you're socially isolated. So how would you know what it's like for somebody who's operating in a traditional entrepreneurship? It doesn't, to me, this doesn't make sense. But maybe you caught something in the article I didn't. So make sure you comment on that below. Great, so in the next video we're going to talk about the geography of home-based businesses. Make sure you give me a thumbs up, that's like a like, comment down below, and then also subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.